we're trying to say to our friends in the region, Israel in this case in particular, look, let's see if there's a way to de-escalate this whilst also respecting their right to defend their own soil, particularly from a country that wants to erase it.
The risk of escalation of the conflict between Israel and Iran is currently looking worryingly high. Benjamin Netanyahu said Israel would make its own decisions after Lord Cameron suggested Israel's response to Iran's attack at the weekend should be smart and limited. Iran, in turn, promised a massive and harsh response if Israel attacks its territory. The Defence Secretary, Grant Shapps, joins us now. Good morning to you.
Good morning.
How worried are you, Grant Shapps, about what Israel might do next? Cameron went to Israel to make the case for de-escalation. It doesn't seem that case is being heeded.
I'm worried, extremely worried about the kind of overall picture, and that goes beyond what Israel will do next. I mean, what Iran did on Saturday, firing 300 UAVs, so drones, and cruise and ballistic missiles at a democratic country is extremely concerning. And of course, there's potential for this to spiral and spiral into a much broader regional war. And so, of course, we are stressing the need to be as careful as possible in response, but we also understand that Israel has a right to defend herself, given she's come under attack from an autocratic country, a theocracy, who wants to wipe Israel off the face of the planet.
But
so
does Netanyahu,
today.
does Netanyahu strike you as careful in this respect? He doesn't strike many people as careful in this
No,
respect.
I mean, look, I think there's a difference between a country and their democracy, and whether you think everything that an individual leader does is the right thing. And I think we have to be sort of clear-eyed about this. That when a democracy is under attack, the right to defend itself, and indeed have partners assist in that defence, should be second to none. Now, Iran doesn't have any of those controls. They're an autocracy. But of course, we're trying to say to our friends in the region, Israel in this case in particular, look, let's see if there's a way to de-escalate this whilst also respecting their right to defend their own soil, particularly from a country that wants to erase it.
54 Tory MPs have written to the Times today urging your government to prescribe the IRGC. I know this was off the table at the beginning of the week. Is it something you might still consider? Is there something Iran could do that might put this back on the table?
Well, I should say we always do keep under very close review the prescription of any organization, terrorists in particular, of course. But we have actually already sanctioned lots of different elements. And in fact, the whole of the IRGC, the Iranian Guard, in full. So they are already all tightly sanctioned. There are pros and cons of proscription. One of the things you don't get to do if you prescribe is to have any form of diplomatic relations at all, which means you can no longer deliver direct messages. You can no longer have an embassy. So there are things to balance off in both directions. Ultimately, the decision actually that the Home Secretary takes. But I think this is constantly under review, and the position at the moment is that they remain with diplomatic relations in place, which has enabled, for example, the Foreign Secretary to have direct conversations with their Foreign Secretary.
Do you think it's acceptable, Grant Shapps? We had 100 visas to be granted to Iranian clerics. These are people loyal to the Iranian theocratic regime. They come to Britain. By very definition, they are loyal to a regime that is harmful towards us. What checks are on Iranian clerics coming into this country on religious visas that they don't wish ill towards us?
Yeah, I mean, look, I do worry about the potential for, because we're an open democratic state. There is always that concern about the potential for people to abuse our sort of liberal nature as a country, as a democracy. But that is why we've done a whole bunch of different things, including updating our espionage laws, overhauling the way that we tackle extremism. And again, that's something that Michael Gove's done as community
But will you
secretary.
look into these Iranian clerics? Will you keep an eye on Iranian clerics coming into this country?
Yes, absolutely. And it's a subject of detailed discussion amongst ministers, because we are very concerned to make sure that our good nature isn't essentially abused, and our belief in free speech isn't abused by those who want to do harm to this country. So very much so.
Grant Shapps, people who listen to this programme know what a supporter you are of Ukraine. And I wonder whether you might offer some thoughts in this subject, which has exercised us this week. Why is the UK able to help Israel with planes in the air, shooting down missiles that might harm people in Tel Aviv and Jerusalem, but they are not able to do that to stop missiles coming from Russia that might harm people in Kyiv.
Well, we most certainly do help. Is the first thing to say.
And we
I
understand
know.
that. We understand that you do help in lots of ways, but
Yes.
you are not willing. The country has not been willing to send planes in the air to tackle missiles. And we've had Ukrainians on this show not understanding why. And what's the reason?
So let me sort of just run through it. First of all, we do actually help. We do help with that defense. We do help with that missile defense by giving those things to Ukraine. And the United Kingdom has been first amongst all with our forward willingness to do that. And that's something that President Zelensky has made very clear to me. In fact, even saying he's not sure they would be in the war at all if it weren't for Britain's actions. On the other hand, you asked the question, why do we fly jets in the case of Iran? The simple answer is we're flying those jets under an existing operation in Iraq or over Iraq and Syria between Iran and Israel. We were neither flying in Israeli airspace or in Iran's airspace. So you've got a different geographical setup. And of course, the last thing to say is what we don't want to see happen in Ukraine or elsewhere is to draw in the NATO situation where you're effectively creating a war between Russia and NATO directly. So the position in Ukraine is somewhat different to the position in the Middle East, but our determination to help, and I don't think anyone could doubt, not least because I've just made the biggest, with the Prime Minister, the biggest single package of donation to Ukraine this year at £2.5 billion. And so we are very much looking at, when we don't give that money to Israel, we don't give that money anywhere else. That money is going to Ukraine. So I don't think anyone can doubt our determination to help Ukraine.
The question is how much money you have to spend generally as Secretary of State for Defence. You've committed to increasing spending to 2.5%, but people want to know, Grant Shapps, when will that happen? Will that happen before an election? Let's say the election is in the autumn, just for the sake of argument. Can you say on this programme that there will be an increase of defence spending by the autumn?
I would love to write our, our next budgets, or spring statements or autumn statements on this program, but I can't do that. But what I can do is say that we are committed, as you said, when the conditions allow economically, to that 2.5%.
So they're not allowed. So they're not right now. So as of April this year, it's not economically possible to increase defence spending to 2.5%.
So we keep this under constant review, and as soon as we can, we will. But in the meantime, we are, compared with last year, increasing our budget by 1.8% in real terms. So we're putting more cash in already, £56 billion plus this year to our total defence budget, including helping Ukraine. So this is the biggest cash amount ever. And we've said we want to go to 2.5%. We will, when we can, we will do that. But we have a very large, in fact, the second biggest in NATO defence budget. So we are not laggards on this.
Front page of the Times today, you will have read it. Mark Menzies under investigation after extraordinary claims. There are extraordinary claims about him using campaign funds to cover blackmail costs and medical bills. He called a 70-year-old volunteer at 3:15 in the morning to pay $6,500 from her savings account. I know he disputes this. This is a matter for investigation, which you're not going to be able to comment on. But the Conservative Party has known about this. They've known about this, Grant Shapps, since January. Why wasn't this acted upon in January?
So I'm afraid not over the detail of this as Defence Secretary, but I do know that further information came to light yesterday, and there was a conversation.
The Times reported it. The Times reported, but it is clear in the story. Senior Tories, including Simon Hart, have been aware of the allegations against Menzies since January. So this is a question of your party's competence in dealing with a problem.
Well, I was going to say, my understanding is, forgive me, I'm not close to the detail, but my understanding is that there was some further information yesterday. I don't know precisely what that was. It led to a conversation in which the whip was removed, and this would be properly investigated. As you note, the MP concerned denies the allegations quite proper. There should be a proper investigation into it.
But that should have happened without the Times having to get involved. That's the question. The Times got involved, and the whip gets removed. This could have happened back in January.
Well, as I say, I mean, I think it's proper that the process is followed. It sounds to me that there is potentially somebody who's quite troubled in the mix here. So I don't want to sort of go further commenting on something I don't have all the details.
Okay.
But, you're absolutely right that a process is properly followed and this has got to the bottom of.
Just before you go, do you have to concede, Grant Shapps, that flights to Rwanda will not be going by spring? Spring is almost well and truly sprung. The flights are not going to be going to Rwanda in that time?
Well, look, I very much hope, because I think it's the only way to break this illegal people trafficking across the channel, that they can. I
You
note
still
that
hope they
Labour
can. You
once,
still hope they can.
well, if they don't, it will be entirely because Keir Starmer will not let his Lords vote for it, or even stand down from voting against it. Labour have once again blocked the ability for Parliament to pass this law. Labour don't seem to have an answer. They don't seem to want it to happen. It's directly at Keir Starmer's door if they don't go.
And do you have any confidence that they will?
Well, I still think actually Parliament's will from the Commons has spoken, and the Commons is the elected House. Very clearly, I'm very surprised that Keir Starmer still sent his Labour peers, the Lords, to go and defeat this once again. I don't think they can carry on doing that. Presumably next week that will be overturned. And I very much hope the flights can leave quickly, because I haven't heard a better alternative. I haven't heard the thing which is going to smash this illegal racketeering in people's lives and creating all this misery across the channel. I certainly haven't heard a solution from Labour, who simply criticise but don't have a solution and keep blocking, in this case last night in the Lords, through Labour peers, the Rwanda legislation.
Grant Shapps, thank you for talking to us today.
Thank you.
That's Grant Shapps there, the Defence Secretary. Concerned about Iran, concerned about Iranian clerics in this country. Not really wanting to get too much into Mark Menzies, who sounded that said he was quite a troubled individual.